It's March 7th, 2019. Welcome to a very special edition episode of Yogakane. Episode 7, Let Yoga Do Its Job. I'm Lauren Sanders, your host. Yogakane is a podcast where I travel around the beautiful Pacific Northwest, talking to yogis within our community about yoga. The mission of the podcast is to spread the message that yoga is for everybody. And today we are traveling to Spokane, Washington to learn about Baptiste Yoga. Personally, this is one of my favorite styles of yoga to practice. I love the energy of the room, the heat in the room, the unique class sequences. However, I have a lot of questions about Baptiste Yoga, such as, why is the room heated? Who founded Baptiste Yoga? What exactly does power yoga mean? And as for the yoga class sequence, it seems like a pretty intermediate level sequence. Is it possible for the sequence to be scaled down for a more beginner level student? To help answer these questions, I couldn't think of a better couple to help. I'd like to introduce you to my guests for this week's episode, a beautiful husband and wife who have just opened up a new yoga studio in Spokane, Washington, Eclipse Power Yoga. Erin and Scott.
My name is Scott Hayamoto, born and raised here in Spokane, Washington, and I met my beautiful wife, Erin, when we were in 2000, or what year was it? Well, actually, we've known each other for a long time. Our brothers actually played football together and in high school. Oh. And so we're close family friends. So my family and her family were really close. Erin and I didn't really know each other or started dating until we were in college in Eastern Washington University.
Go Hastings.
Yeah, or Hastings, which was a music and books and movie place where you went and actually rented movies and brought them back.
Was that like your first date, Hastings?
It's where we both worked.
It's where you both worked.
Yeah.
That's where we both worked. Yeah, and then we took our, we started dating in college and been together ever since. So we have a beautiful daughter, Reiko. She's 6 years old in kindergarten. She keeps us busy. And yeah, we just opened our yoga studio here, Eclipse Power Yoga, in November of 2018. So we've been quite busy lately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm Erin Hayamoto, the beautiful wife he talks about. And I mean, I think you kind of summed up our story pretty well. Okay. Yeah, that was good. I liked that. We've gone to school together since we were in elementary school. So yeah, a lot of people think that we were high school sweethearts, but we were college buddies. So, and then it happened. So it's 10 years that we'll be married in September and 15 years together.
Yeah.
Wow, right on.
Yeah, long time.
Jeez. Yeah, it is. Well, nice cliff notes.
Yeah.
The nice cliff notes of the Erin and
Scott
totally.
Love story.
Yeah, I will say, though, I think I've learned more about our marriage in the last 4 months of opening a business together than in the past 14 and a half years.
Yes. How did you guys so you were from Spokane, but I heard about the two of you actually I was telling Scott about this. I heard about the two of you from a lady over in Seattle. I did a training with her with a Jason Crandall stress management training in November.
Suzanne?
It must have been her. I have no idea.
Short blonde hair, maybe?
I don't remember.
Okay.
But all I know is she's like, there's this couple, Erin and Sam, they're in Spokane. They just opened up a new studio. You got to check them out.
Yeah.
So that's how I found you guys. Or Erin and Scott, sorry. I interviewed Erin and Sam for the Lotus.
Oh,
so I was like, that's in my brain. But Scott and Erin.
Yes.
So that's how I heard about you two.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I'm just curious, how did she know about you in Seattle? What were you doing over there?
Well, we lived in Seattle for about 10 years. I would say a little more than 10 years.
Okay.
And so I actually practiced at a few studios. You did too. Over in the Mill Creek, Woodinville area. And I think it was Suzanne because she loves Jason with all of her heart. So,
okay.
And so she was one of my teachers that I would take class from frequently at Fusion Hot Yoga in Mill Creek. And then, you would practice at Root to Rise in Woodinville.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's kind of where your yoga journey began in Seattle, right? I mean, you
Oh,
started
yeah.
practicing at Fusion, right? And that's kind of how you kind of developed your practice, kind of a thing.
Yeah, well, I would say it was more, it started in our bedroom with YouTube yoga videos of Sadie Nardini that I found on the computer because we had just had Reiko and I wasn't confident enough to go back into a studio. So I started in our bedroom, and then I think you were the one who found Fusion and said, hey, they have a Groupon, go try them. And it was my second class that I took from Carrie, and she's a certified Baptiste instructor.
Okay.
And I just knew. It felt like coming home. I knew that was what I was meant to practice, and that was the first moment that I thought I should be teaching this. Like something outside of me called to me and said, this is what you were meant to do.
Wow. Did it happen during the class or like afterwards?
It was about 20 minutes into the class. It was really bizarre. Yeah.
And so how long after that did you start to get your Baptiste training?
It was about a year after that, because I was still getting my yoga mom legs underneath me.
Yeah.
So it was about a year, and she was a huge encouragement to go to Baptiste Level 1. Just go and experience it.
So what is Baptiste Level 1? Could you explain, maybe first, it might be good if we could explain for the listeners what Baptiste Yoga is.
Yeah, I think, so if you were thinking about doing a teacher training, you have all different types of options, and it can get really intimidating. It can be really confusing on where should I get my training. And a lot of local yoga studios offer trainings themselves, where you go to the studio usually that you practice with, and either the owners or different instructors kind of facilitate that training for about 200 hours of instruction or practice and so on. We decided to not do that, and we looked at where can we get the best instruction in the world. And we really believe that if you want to be the best teacher, be the most empowered teacher that you can be, that you need to learn from the best teacher that there is. And so we did a lot of research. We asked around, and thankfully we were practicing with teachers who were certified in this Baptiste Institute, and we had no idea what that was. So we went on their website, baptisteyoga.com, and we saw an opportunity for us to learn from somebody who actually learned from a guy by the name of BKS Iyengar.
Oh, I've heard of him.
Yeah, okay. I mean, hopefully we've all heard of him, right?
Yeah.
And so he's credited to bringing yoga to the Western world, and Baron Baptiste was his student. And so when we're learning from Baron Baptiste, we're actually one away from the person who brought yoga to the Western world. And we take that really seriously.
That's cool.
Yeah, and so we decided we're going to take a leap of faith and try this. And Erin went through the first part of the training first, which is called Level 1. It's a week-long training that you leave your house and you travel to either Arizona or New York, or now they have some in Thailand, but it's a week-long intensive teacher training.
Boot camp.
It's pretty much a boot camp.
Really?
And there's some people think that it's like this nice yoga retreat that you go to.
No.
And it is not. But you went to Level 1 Baptiste in what year was that?
I went to training in 2014.
Okay.
And it was in Sedona.
Oh, wow. So what's the boot camp like?
Well, you go not knowing what to expect. At least I did, because I didn't have anyone that I went with, really. Just by happenstance, one of my friends ended up being there, one of the fellow students that I practiced with. And so we actually ended up doing all of our consecutive trainings after that together.
Nice.
But everyone is just unsure. Whether you've heard about level 1, whether other teachers have told you about what it is, you don't fully know until you're completely immersed into it, like 12 hours later. And then, it's almost a, oh my God, what did I get myself into? It's 6 a.m. wake-up calls. It's breakfast. It's, at least in Sedona, it's hiking a good half mile to the practice hall.
Nice.
It's meditation for half an hour every morning. And then it's a 90-minute practice. Then you break for snack. Then you do skill set and strength building with partners or small groups. And then it's lunch. And then we get into the real meat and potatoes of the program, because it's not about the yoga. It's great. The yoga is amazing. It's not about that. It's about the inquiry sessions that they have, where you dive deep into your baggage, I guess is the best way to call it.
Really?
But level 1 is really about discovering who you are as a person, so you can show up as a better teacher for your students. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, absolutely. And Baptiste Yoga, and we'll just kind of clarify for your listeners, it's a power vinyasa teacher training. And so if you're interested in teaching power vinyasa yoga, this is a great avenue for your listeners to incorporate. But if you want to teach a different style of yoga, let's say Bikram yoga or some other type of yoga, I would encourage you to get specific training in that particular area. It's really important for our studio. We're a power vinyasa based studio. And so all of our instructors are trained to teach power vinyasa yoga. And I think that's really important. And our business model is we're going to offer only power vinyasa yoga, but be the best at it. Just be that specialized experts in that type of yoga. If someone's interested in learning about this style, they should come to our studio. I think a lot of studios offer different types of yoga, and I think that's good. I think that's great if they want to do that, just because they bring in a lot more avenues of learning. But we're going to specialize in this Baptiste yoga and try to offer it to people of Spokane, people of this area. And we truly believe, because the great thing about this type of practice is that it's for all levels. We do not have a beginner, intermediate, or advanced classes. All of our classes are for all levels. And it's a challenge for us to really get that out there for people who have never done yoga before, because I think it would be really intimidating to come into a yoga studio. I think we've all been at that place that first time walking into a yoga studio.
Well, I started in my bedroom because I was scared to go into a studio.
Yeah, and when I read the word power, I will think that's going to be an advanced class.
Yes.
Do I have that energy level? Am I up for that, Lauren? So those are the thoughts that go through my head before when I read that word power. So I want to go back to talk more about the different levels of the Baptiste training later, but I do want to ask the question, like, what does a power yoga class look like? Like, what can people expect to see?
Yeah, so as a part of our training, Baron Baptiste developed his journey into power sequence. And it's based off of his studies with Bikram, and it's based off of his studies with Iyengar.
He did both? He studied with both of them?
He studied with both,
oh, wow.
Yeah. So when you look at Journey into Power and you look at the sequence, you'll see very clearly that it takes you, theoretically speaking, up the mountain, and you peak with your balancing and your floor series, right? Core, back, wheel. And then it takes you back down the mountain. So it very intelligently works your body from start to finish, all areas of your body. And the great thing about the Journey into Power sequence is that it really is a blueprint. And so what you can expect when you come to any of our power classes here is that, one, it's intelligently sequenced because we use this Journey into Power as our blueprint. But you'll notice that we slowly take you up the mountain. There's typically always balancing. We start with sun A's and sun B's to warm the body up naturally with breath and movement. We peak with our balancing and our floor series, and then we bring you back down with some stretching, some rejuvenation poses, and then, of course, everyone's favorite, Shavasana.
Yeah, and I think if you're listening right now and you don't know what wheel is or any of these types of things, just know this, that we're trying to be the most welcoming studio in Spokane. I think that's one of our goals and our missions. And we've had so many people who have never done yoga before enter our doors, just not knowing really anything about what to do. And just know that our teachers are just the most welcoming, knowledgeable teachers I think that we have in Spokane. Maybe I'm biased, but
No, we have an amazing staff.
yeah, we do. And but the great thing that I love about them, all of them, is how welcoming they are for everybody, no matter what your yoga experience is. So whether you've practiced twice in your life or 200 times, all of our teachers are trained to cue the practice to all levels in all of our classes. And we just take that really seriously. And we try to work from that first and last mentality, is that this could be someone's first yoga class. And so this is our opportunity to really display a welcoming of coming into our yoga studio and just practicing from where you are. And also from the last point of view is, somebody could have had a bad yoga experience at another yoga studio, and we've heard some stories about that as well. And this is they're giving yoga one last chance. And they're walking through our doors saying, all right, this is it. I'm going to try it one more time, and if it doesn't work, I'm not doing it again. And I was there.
I was just going to say, that is
yes,
your story.
I was there. This was my story. So I had a really bad relationship with yoga at one point. I was getting injured a lot. And I was getting really frustrated that I couldn't do some of these poses. I'm that like type A personality where if I'm not good at something, I don't like to do it. And I had that mentality a lot through yoga. And I was given yoga one last chance. So I went to Root to Rise Yoga Studio in Woodinville. And the owner there, Casey, was and is still so welcoming that it shifted my mindset about what yoga really was about. And it was through her and that studio is why I continue to practice, and why basically an inspiration for us to actually build a studio of our own. Because there's a lot of people out there, I think, that have that in their minds, that yoga's hard. I can never do those poses.
I'm not flexible enough.
I'm not flexible enough. I'm not strong enough. I'm not this and I'm not that. And that's totally normal because we're all human and we have those thoughts. But we want to be known in Spokane as a studio of welcoming, in that this space is going to feel like home to you. And it's a family-oriented environment. And we just want to make sure that people know that, that no matter where you are in your practice, you can practice here and not be judged. We don't have mirrors in our practice room. I know y'all can't see where we are right now, but there are no mirrors. And we do that on purpose because we let our teachers help cue you in the pose. And all the judgments of the mirror stuff is just out of your mind. So you can just come into this room and be where you are.
Yeah. So. That's really important because it frees us from that thought of, oh, I'm supposed to look a certain way, or so-and-so's doing it like this.
Right.
So because I'll see that in some of my classes that I teach. I don't know if you've seen this, but you'll see someone that's looking around and then they notice someone else is going deeper, so they try to go deep with them. And when you see that, what kind of cues do you say to that person, like when you kind of start to see someone maybe I know because I know in Baptiste Yoga it is empowering, so you do want people to go for it, but if you do see someone who's doing it maybe because they're seeing someone else doing it,
so
what do you think? How do you approach that?
The great thing about Baptiste Yoga is that we're all trained to cue areas of the body where it's supposed to be in alignment with every pose.
Cool.
And so that's why Erin and I trust the practice
Yep.
Okay.
to let the
Let the yoga do its job.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you know, I in my experience, if I've seen a student who is forsaking alignment for depth, just bringing back those simple alignment cues typically
Cool.
pulls them back, or even just a simple cue of, you know, where you should be feeling this pose
Smart.
makes a difference without calling out someone and saying, oh, you shouldn't be going that deep, you know. So
Yeah. Okay, that's nice. So you redirect it back into
The
like
practice.
The practice.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you for that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that
I think
approach.
a good teacher has good cues and presents the practice well and all those things. But I think a great teacher lets the practice transform the student. And we're trying to let them discover for themselves how Baptiste Yoga can help transform their yoga practice, how it can help transform them outside of the practice room. And that's just really why we exist here.
Yeah.
Why we built the studio.
And one of Baron's quotes is, you know, what you do on the mat facilitates your whole life. And I feel like that quote is so just like mic dropping, because just in my class last night, I was talking about if you rush through the transition of upward facing dog to downward facing dog, what does that say about when you're in a difficult transition in life? Do you try and rush through it, or do you stay and breathe and see what you learn from one movement to the next?
Yeah. Totally. You know, you said that to me when we first met, and that really has stuck with me as well.
Good. Oh, good.
Yeah, so Erin and I met, and Scott met a few, like months ago now.
Yeah.
Here, and
Yeah.
they were giving me a tour of the studio, and you did say that, you said that to me, like what we do on the mat really does reflect how we are in life. And I took that really seriously, and it started to reconnect me back to my breath and movement, instead of like the teachers are here to like cue us and give us kind of like a blueprint of our own on the mat, but it's really our own breath that facilitates and moves us from pose to pose.
Yeah.
Yes.
Scott, you said something that I just wanted to go back on. You said that what you experienced, so your yoga journey is that you were at a point where it was like your last class.
Yep.
So then you went to the studio in Woodinville, is that right?
Yep.
And you said that it shifted your mindset of what yoga is about. So I was just curious, like, what did you think yoga was about, and then what did you, after that class, realize what yoga is about?
So I went through a period of time where I thought yoga was getting into poses, and that's it. Just looking at people on Instagram, on the Facebook, just get up into a handstand, and I thought that's what yoga was. We're just coming into a room and doing some poses. And so when I couldn't do some of these poses, I got really frustrated. Either my strength or my lack of flexibility in my hips or anything like that, I got really frustrated with myself. And you get down on yourself because it's something where you feel like you failed. And when you probably stop doing something if you failed at it, right? And so that's why I got to that point of just, all right, I'm done with this because I'm not good at it. I will never get into a handstand or any of these type of things. And so, but I did decide to give it one last chance. And so when I went to Root to Rise in Woodinville, the class, it was not so much about the class or the yoga, it was about the relationships of the students in the room and of the owner.
Okay.
And it came about where yoga was more than about getting up into a handstand. It was about the journey of yoga with a community. And just having that valuable just knowledge and realization that yoga is much more than poses. It's about coming together not only in the practice room, but stuff outside your life you bring in the room. And being able to share that with others, your experiences that we have with others, lifting each other up and shining our light, that's what I learned at that studio. And it was through that experience, all of a sudden, my yoga practice started to change. And it was because of that mindset that I had. I was blocking myself from really deepening my practicing and understanding what yoga is. And so when my mindset changed and I was with a group of people that I trusted, and when I was at a studio that I trusted and felt comfortable with, all of a sudden my yoga practice started to change. And that's where kind of my relationship with yoga is now. Is that, can I get up into a handstand in the middle of the room? No. But it's a journey that I take with other people that I really enjoy doing. To me, it's not about the handstand at the end. It's about the journey that we take during the process, where we build that relationship, and through that, I think we all come out better together. So, yeah, it's really amazing if you let yourself just let the practice transform who you are with people around you. It's a great feeling. So,
and I think that's one of the biggest things that happens at level 1, is that you make relationships with people there that will last your whole entire life.
Yes.
And Scott is a huge testament of that, because he has friends now. I do too. I mean, I have a place to stay with a friend all across the U.S. just from my training. But it's, we say it's a boot camp, and it is, but it's also an experience that when you go through this with other people, it creates such a bond with them that not only are you not the same when you come out the other side, but you come out the other side with 96 people who just went through the same thing that you did, and it is bonding for life.
Yeah. So in that level 1 boot camp, or level 1 Baptiste training, so you said you were explaining the day-to-day. So the remainder part of that day is about, for that first week. Could you go into that a little bit more?
Yeah, so I think I left off kind of at the lunchtime, and then in the afternoon you typically move into inquiry sessions where you're given a prompt, or you're given the prompt before lunch. Something, I think you had a good one, and it was the one that was, I think, the most impactful to me, but you had to pick someone in your life that you are speaking to. And you fill out the blanks, and I might not get it totally right, but it's, my name is, you are my blank. What I tell you is about myself is blank, and what I want to say now is blank. And just the power of having to fill that out is one thing. But then you sit knee to knee with a partner and you read out loud what you wrote over and over again.
Wow.
And so it's not only the action of writing it, but then also the action of saying it to another human being. And the connection that comes from that is incredible. So it's a week long of different sessions like that. And then you typically move into either discussion after dinner or another practice.
So it sounds to me like that level 1 training really is about like the intention of the 8 limbs of yoga.
Yeah.
It's like you're practicing the asana to like learn how to discipline the body and mind, and then you're working through the yamas and niyamas to kind of like figure out what your baggage is that you're carrying, and then how you can start to get integrity back to yourself, like fall in love with yourself and let some stuff go. Because when you were just talking now, you were starting to get, I noticed your eyes were kind of starting to get a little teary.
It's definitely, yeah.
Wow, quite a journey. Yeah.
Yeah.
Scott, when you did your training, the level 1, you two didn't do it together,
We did not.
right?
No.
So how long after Erin's training did you do your level 1?
I think it was about 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
And
wow.
Yeah, so it was a little while.
Okay.
And because I was really apprehensive to become a yoga teacher, and at first, and so I went to level 1, and you show up on a Saturday, and I was gonna leave on Monday. And it's a week-long program, and I had my bags packed because I just couldn't take.
And everyone has that. Everyone goes through that
Yes.
moment at some point during
Totally.
the week where
So
they're
you-
like, I'm done.
Really, you just wanted to drop out?
Just drop out. Yeah,
Yoga
leave.
yoga school teacher drop out.
But it's usually right before you have your greatest breakthrough. You're ready to just quit.
Ready to quit. And so I was going to leave. And I opened my journal, and I brought a picture of Erin and our daughter. And I also brought a picture of, at the time, we knew a family who was going through a really rough patch where their boy had brain cancer. And so I took a picture of him with me too. And what I thought in my mind was, okay, I'm going to quit and leave. Can this boy quit his cancer? Can he just say, I'm done, and just have the cancer go away? No, he can't. And so I'm going to leave like this, and I'm going to let that boy down, and I'm going to let my wife down, and I'm going to let my daughter down. And that was when I had my breakthrough, was that no matter what challenges you have in your life, there's somebody else that's going through something worse. And so my ability to step up and say, okay, I'm going to show up here. I'm not going to have this mentality of I don't like it here, or I don't like the things that we're doing. I'm going to go all in on this, and in the end, I'm going to find out who I am as a person.
Wow.
And so I stayed, and by the time the week ended, the last practice at level 1 is a practice you will never forget. And
You don't want it to end.
you don't want it to
You've
end.
waited all week for the end. And when that final practice comes, yeah, like it's emotional. You don't
Very
want it
emotional.
to end.
Very emotional, and you don't want to leave. You
Yeah.
build these relationships, and you pour your heart and soul into these strangers, and they become your support after the training and when you start teaching. And that's when you can come to them and say, you know what, I didn't have a great class today. I felt my cueing was off. You know, help me out here.
Yeah.
And you build that community of teachers.
That's cool.
And you come back not only a transformed student, but then you're ready to become a teacher. Because I think a lot of yoga teachers, they need to understand and accept who they are as a person,
Right.
with all their faults. And that's what level 1 does, is that you understand where you come up short, but at the same time, you become accepting of that.
Yeah.
And know that I'm going to make mistakes. Every time I teach, I make a mistake. Every time I teach, I make a cueing mistake. I say left when I mean right. It happens to all of us.
Yeah.
But
Every day.
yes, but it's okay, because we're all human beings. We're all in this together. Just because we're up here teaching and speaking doesn't mean we're this, perfect person.
No, and I think level 1 really fosters authenticity.
Totally.
Cool.
And how to be an authentic person in your own life. Like, take the teaching out of it. It's how you show up just authentically as Lauren, as Scott, as Erin, because there's nobody else that's like you, that has had the same things happen to you, that has the same dreams and goals that you do. And so how do you authentically show up for yourself? Not only for yourself, but then also the people around you.
That's what I was wondering, was how did your training impact your day-to-day life after you came back after that level 1? Like, did you notice
Yeah.
shifts happen? Did you notice some relationships might have kind of
Yes.
changed?
For me, it was very hard. It was very hard to reintegrate back into quote unquote society, right? And I had heard that leaving. I had friends that said, okay, well, when you're ready for reintegration, we'll help you. And I was like, God, what am I getting myself into? But it was hard. I mean, it was, I had gone through this huge change in 7 days, which is like, the blink of an eye. And my husband hadn't been on that change with me. My friends hadn't been on that change with me. my family hadn't been on that change with me. And so I was almost released back into the world as like a soldier, like ready to live my authenticity. And it was scary. It was very scary to be that open and that ready to take on the world when, you know, your closest family hadn't been on it with you. And so I think your journey back to integration might have been a little bit different than mine.
Yeah. And it's funny because some people go to level 1 that have never practiced yoga before.
Yeah.
Because they understand the journey that people take during this training.
Right
that
on.
it's not really about the yoga per se. It's more about getting to know who you are as a person. And then once you've gone to level 1, then they have a level 2 week-long intensive where they really hone in on yourself as a teacher.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's incredible.
So that's what I was curious. So that first, that level 1 training, so you can teach right after that.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yes.
what, so there is some part, so you do learn the sequence, you do learn some minor
Some
things.
very basic.
Okay.
Like, you know, how to direct someone's body to go in what direction, right?
Okay. And then the level 2.
And then level 2 really teaches you how to show up as a teacher, right?
Okay.
So you've developed your authenticity as a person. Level 2 is about how do you take that authenticity and display it and be able to lead a class authentically, right? And then the Baptiste Foundation has a level 3, which I haven't been to yet. I'm hoping to go in December.
Baptiste Institute.
Yeah, the Baptiste Institute does. And that's, you know, how you as a teacher impact your community.
Oh, wow.
So it starts small at you, and then it just gets bigger and bigger.
Is there a level 4?
There's not,
Okay.
but maybe there should be.
Well, then you move into the Baptiste Foundation's Fit to Lead program, which is an intensive leadership program.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think a prime example of a mentor that we have, her name is Paige Ellenson, and she was just a yoga teacher back in the day. And she took the trainings, the level 1 and level 2, and just coming to our mission really quick, and I'll go back to Paige, is that we want to empower people to find their light and be a leader in our community. And Paige was a yoga teacher, went to Baptiste trainings. She became an ambassador and started actually instructing and being a facilitator for the trainings. But then she took a trip to Africa and saw some Africans doing handstands. And so she got out of her Jeep that she was taking a trip down with her family. And started
she was on safari.
She was on a safari, yeah, and just started doing handstands with them. And they invited her back to teach them yoga.
Oh,
and
cool.
Yeah.
so she went back, taught them some yoga, and skipping forward a lot of years, she founded Africa Yoga Project. And she full-time lives in Africa now and teaches the locals how to teach yoga and offer that to people in their country. And she is just such an inspiration for us because she was just a regular yoga teacher. And she had a vision, she had a determination, and she had just the wherewithal to say, you know what, I'm taking a leap of faith here. I'm going to get outside my comfort zone and try to make a difference in the world. And she's doing that, and she did that. And it's a microcosm of what we would like to build here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was curious, like with that level 3, do you already have some kind of dreams or brainstorm ideas that you would like to?
Yeah, I mean, you know,
bring
as our studio, we are very community focused, right? So in the process of finding a place and figuring out our mission, the real vein is we want to make a difference. We want to leave Spokane better than how we found it. And
I love that. Like that is honestly,
I mean, that's
My
just like
mantra.
the whole thing is,
Yeah.
you know, you want to empower others so they can be better people, so then they can empower others, and just think of the ripple effect of that. And so, you know, we try and do various community events and support local charities, and I'm looking forward to just how I can be a better steward of that.
Okay, cool. Oh, I love your mantra. Like, leave Spokane better than you found it.
Yeah, and it's
That's
just
so
like when you
cool.
go hiking, right? Like, pack it in, pack it out, you know?
Totally.
Leave it better than you found it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So could you two tell me a little bit more about Baron Baptiste, the founder of like Baptiste Yoga?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
I've heard of him during my 200-hour training. He was called the cheerleader of yoga. So like he's a cheerleader yoga teacher. So tell me about him. I'm really curious about this guy.
Well, what's funny about his story is really it's his parents who really founded Baptiste Yoga.
Okay.
And they had a studio in California, and that's where he grew up. And he hated it. He hated yoga. His parents would make him come to yoga classes as punishment because that's how much he hated it. And, you
Can
know,
you imagine?
much like how every student has that shift in any single class, you know, he realized, you know, what is this doing for me, instead of necessarily like, why are they doing this to me? And shifting his perspective kind of completely changed his whole outlook on yoga itself, what his parents were doing. And he went the opposite way and just spent the rest of his life studying the practice, studying Iyengar, working directly underneath him, studying Bikram, working with Bikram. And you'll see in his journey into power sequence that he created and he developed that there is routine and structure that is pulled from the Bikram style. But then the props and the encouragement, you know, kind of comes from the Iyengar style of yoga. And so it's this blend of aspects of both. And then Baron takes it to a whole new level of asking his students, you know, from right here in this moment, what's possible? You know, he really allows his students to feel empowered on their mat just by themselves. You know, he doesn't dance around mats and say, yeah, go guys,
Okay,
you can do it. You got it.
Okay.
You know, it's more about how can he, you know, facilitate the practice in a way that and ask the questions in a way that his students are like, oh, I didn't think about it that way.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay.
Another one of his sayings is, you're either now here or you're nowhere. And so as a student hearing that, you're like, I'm not being present right now. How can I bring more presence to my practice?
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Sounds like an incredible human being.
He really is.
Yeah.
And Baron does a great job of just telling students just to get out of your head.
Yeah.
A lot of students that come to the training to level 1 are so much in their head about every single thing, is that, listen, you come to the practice room, this is an area for you. This is an area for your time. And if you spend it in your head, how much are you really getting out of it?
Yeah.
And so his sequencing of his practice is in a way on purpose, so you get out of your head. And so you're just moving with your breath. Vinyasa means move with your breath. And it's when you get out of your head and you practice the journey into power sequence, it will transform your practice. And yeah.
I was going to say, I think the other thing to add is that there's no music, right? So in his trainings in the traditional practice of Baptiste Yoga, there's not music. And, you know, we've kind of adapted it in the different Baptiste studios across the U.S. where we, you know, add like a power beats class and you add a fun playlist. But really, the heart of it is you hear breath.
Cool. Yeah.
And that's it. And so music can be seen as, Baron calls it, an exit door, as a way to check out and listen to that Tupac song that you really like, you know?
Yeah.
And mirrors are a way to check out too. Is
Yeah,
that you're looking
totally.
at other students and you're looking at yourself and your drishti or your gaze gets all weird. And then so
Yeah.
Baptiste Yoga, there's no music, there's no mirrors. It's you on this rectangular mat showing up and trying to find your light during the practice and shining at the end. That's
cool.
really what Baptiste Yoga is about.
That's really what yoga is
totally,
about, you know.
totally.
It's just
Yeah.
like falling in love with the physical so you can like get that awakening within,
Yeah.
you know. This is a great segue because that is my other question is about the power beats. But before that, I have a question about your particular space here. Do you offer any classes on the schedule where there is no music?
Yes.
Okay.
Our
cool.
Power Flow 90 class on Thursday nights at 6 is the traditional Journey into Power sequence.
Cool.
And there's no music.
Oh, right on.
Yeah.
And so the sequence that we learn at our trainings, that's exactly pose for pose what we offer on Thursday nights at 6 o'clock. Is that 90 minutes journey into power. And then our other classes on the schedule, we have Power 60, which means no music. And all of our Power Beats classes, we implement a playlist for those.
Okay.
So there is music going on for those. Because we're willing to meet people where they are, and we understand that music is becoming a part of a practice. And that's totally fine with us. We're willing to offer that. But we also want to offer these non-music classes too, so people can get a chance to hear the room, hear their breath, and just really be mindful about the space. And I think that's really important too.
Yeah.
So we offer both of those opportunities.
Yeah, and Scott, you put it so well the other night. If you want to see a change in your practice, coming to that 90-minute class consistently, you'll notice leaps and bounds. You will notice a presence that you probably wouldn't get in a class with music. You will notice total transformation in the end.
What is a power beat class all about? Like you were saying, there's music. Is there anything else that's different about it?
Not really.
Okay.
Not really. Yeah, not really. I think
Cool.
all we offer is power vinyasa yoga. So whether it be power beats means there's music. If the word beats is not in the title, then there's no music.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Right
but
on.
there's not really. And I think a lot of my teachings and my classes, I'm trying to help our students become stronger, more flexible, all those different things. But I'm really trying to prepare them for that Thursday night 90-minute class.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
and I don't say that out loud. I just did now, but it's making sure that when they step into that room on Thursday night, that they feel prepared and comfortable enough to really let the practice hone in, or let their preparation before that show up in that Thursday night class. And that's really kind of where I aim to go in the classes that I teach. I also like to really tell my students the reason why we do certain things. And so if I implement some power drills or movements in my class, I'm saying, okay, there's a reason why we're doing this. Maybe we're trying to get into an arm balance here. So we're doing this to help prepare ourselves to get into these things.
So the power drills that you do, those are your way of kind of using that blueprint as somewhere to go, and those power drills are preparing the body for that blueprint journey.
Totally. And I think a lot of times teachers will say, well, okay, this is time to get into handstand. Well, that's cool, but how did we develop our muscles? How did we develop our alignment in other areas so I'll be able to get up into a handstand?
Do you learn about like these power drills or what you do with the block, Erin, for balancing? Do you learn about that in the Baptiste training?
Yeah,
there's cool.
In that level 1, there's, and I will never forget it, there's one class called Love Your Block.
Okay,
and
cool.
By the end of 90 minutes, you do not love your block, but it's incredible because your block is used as a strength builder. It's used as a drishti, and you literally have either your hands or your feet or your thighs on your block for 90 minutes.
Thighs?
Yeah.
What are you doing with that on your thighs? How does it get there? Do you just
well,
hold
like
it there?
bridge pose, like you squeeze it,
Got
or
it.
wheel, or camel.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, they've really developed, and I think blocks and props get a bad rap. People think that they're only for beginners, and
Or they're cheaters.
Or it's a weakness.
Right.
Yeah.
And a block, I will go on record as saying it is the single most effective tool to up level your practice.
You're not the only teacher who I've interviewed that has said that.
Yeah.
Everyone is like, they're all about promoting the use of props.
Yeah. Blocks, straps, blanket, all of it.
So let me get this straight then. So in your training, you have that blueprint, but they also give you they give you tools like the love your block kind of training to empower you as a teacher to help kind of any level student.
Yeah.
So how you were kind of talking about this earlier, Scott, like so in your class, like let's say your 90-minute journey to power sequence. So you have the class is packed with your regulars, but let's say you have like 3 or 4 beginners, like real beginners in the studio, the first as you call them. How do you approach that? And you know it. How do you too as a teacher? I'm just curious for my own. Like how do you approach that as a teacher?
Well, I think one of the ways that Love Your Block class really prepared me was how to assist students in using a block to help them modify postures. We also did a whole entire 90-minute practice modified. So you know how it feels to drop your knees when you move through your flow, or how it feels to just hold high plank, or how it feels to use tabletop instead of a downward facing dog. And so I feel like we are very lucky in that we have a whole entire staff that is very, very not only kind and welcoming, but intelligent. They can teach a class to someone who has never done yoga before, take the plastic off their yoga mat as they roll it out in the practice room. And we've had that happen. And they're now consistently coming because of that first experience, like what you talked about.
Yeah. What a testament to your teachers here.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, yeah, we have the best instructors. We pinch ourselves every day that we have the instructors that we do.
Yeah.
And but to kind of go back to your question is, I think it's about building relationships.
That too. Yep.
Because you know what, if someone's brand new beginner and you have that relationship with them immediately when they walk in that door, it's about their experience. How clean is your studio? How welcoming is your instructors? How clean is your bathrooms? All of these things we take into consideration when someone walks into our studio. And once you build that relationship with that student, they are more likely and vulnerable to come up to you and say, hey, look, I'm not really getting this pose. Can you help me out with this? Because if you're not welcoming and the studio's not clean, they're not going to come up to you and ask any questions because they're just afraid to do those type of things. But if you provide a warmth to them, if you provide a joy to them, they're more apt, and we've seen this in person, how many times they come up to us and say, you know what, I'm not really getting this. Can you go over chaturanga with us? Can you go over the sanaes with us?
Or even during class, I've had students say, can I ask a question? And I'm like, please.
Yeah.
Okay,
Because chances are 2 other people in this room, or 3, or everyone has the same question.
And
so
and
let's talk about it.
There's no rules in our studio. Absolutely 0 rules. I mean, it's a place for all of us to get better and shine. And, you know, if I'm teaching a class and there's another teacher in the room that's not in our studio, that doesn't teach for us, and I'm trying to teach an arm balance, I'm going to ask them, do you have any other tips that maybe you can share with us? And then that person will come up and just teach the class their little trick on getting into an arm balance. So that's the type
awesome,
that's the type of atmosphere that we want to have here.
Yeah.
Is that it's just not come in, close the doors, you can't leave the practice room. That's not what it is here.
Roll.
It's just you come in, let's all bring our stuff into the practice room and just let's walk through it and let's just get through this. And it's just a way of of how we want to portray ourselves in the community.
Life
Yeah.
is too hard
Yeah.
to show up into a yoga class and isolate
Oh,
yourself.
totally.
Yeah.
It's just too tough.
Totally.
So why not come in and, like you said, bring your stuff in, bring your baggage, bring your garbage, bring your thoughts, and sweat it out together and laugh together and walk out of here lighter and maybe with a new friend.
Yeah. So I love that. I love how if you know the teacher in the room, you'll ask them for ideas.
Oh,
Totally.
yeah.
Like that is so cool.
Yeah,
That's
and you
really
feel more
awesome.
comfortable. I mean, even the class today that I taught, just during the class, people are just yelling out poses for us to do. And
Really?
Yeah, this is totally odd. It was like, okay, yeah, let's do that.
How'd you
And
get
so-
into that space?
I don't know. But I think that's the part of building this community, because if we didn't build this studio, we would have never met some of these people that we've met, and that's really a shame. And that really gives us a really good feeling about what it is that we're doing. Is that we're meeting these awesome people, these people that are actually inspiring us.
Yeah, to be better.
Oh, totally. To be better, to offer more, to offer certain kinds of things that they want to see in the class. They become owners of this studio.
Yeah.
We built this studio. The ownership is on everybody to come together and say, look, I mean, let's build this thing and let's do it together. And
That's
we're
sweet.
yeah,
You know,
so-
that's like, I can relate to that mission because with this podcast, it's like, even though I'm facilitating these interviews, this podcast is just as much mine as it is the listeners,
Yeah, of
Oh,
course,
yeah.
as
totally.
it is the guests. So
Totally.
I really just applaud you for being so open to having multiple owners of your Eclipse studio, because
Totally.
that really, I mean, that's so cool. You two are just doing such good things with this space.
Oh,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
You're welcome.
Thank
and
you.
just listening to you right now, I'm feeling overwhelmed with just inspiration and like touching back to like, why am I doing this? Like what is my intention?
Yes.
And getting empowered. So you guys are just really special. So thank you.
Yeah, thank
Yeah,
you.
this has just been amazing. I was just curious about like your training. So you explained that like in your classes here, it's Baptiste, Journey to Power. Do you do like any other trainings besides Baptiste Yoga? Like do you reference anything else? Is it only what you learned in Baptiste, or can you incorporate other things in the sequence? Like, are there any, you said there's no rules for the classroom, but what about for
Totally.
like the sequencing?
Very, very,
Yeah.
very true.
Yeah.
So Erin and I, we have the same training. So our classes are going to be somewhat similar in nature as far as the sequencing goes. However, not all of our teachers are trained in the Baptiste model.
Okay.
And so Taylor and Jocelyn,
Taylor is.
yeah, but all of our teachers have other aspects of their trainings
Yes,
that we want to take advantage of. So we are open for other types of sequencing and movements and all those different things. And so we welcome that, and our students know that. So if
Yeah.
they come into my class or Erin's class, they know what they're coming to. But when they come to another one of our teachers, it provides them with a different look on some things. And what I love about our teachers is they're going to get you into a pose a little different. They're going to cue something different, but I think that's great.
Oh, yeah.
And it just provides them another opportunity for them to get exposed to different types of teachings. And that's really important for us as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I
Yeah.
think the other thing that's so great about just the Baptiste blueprint of Journey into Power is you can take that's what it is a blueprint. You can take that, and if you want to change it up when you move through your salutations, change it up.
Okay.
There's often times where we'll throw in different stuff, or we'll be working, for instance, on a specific arm balance, and we'll do things to get us ready for that arm balance. And then I think it's just the general structure of take you up and then bring you back down, but kind of filling in your flair with that sequence.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love taking our other teachers' classes.
Oh, yeah.
I
Oh, I
learned
know.
I learned so much from every single one of them, and it's great because I can somehow implement it in my teachings too. And it's just an awesome opportunity for us. Like we said, we pinch ourselves every day. And just the knowledge, instruction, how they deliver a class is just so inspirational for me to take. So
it's one of my favorite things to do, whether I'm here, but mostly when I'm traveling for work for my other job, is I will plan where my hotel is based on is it near a yoga studio, just so I can practice somewhere different and try a different teacher, you know, because I feel as a teacher, I'm always a student. There's always so much more to learn, whether books or videos, and Scott is such a great model for this. He has been bringing some really unique strength building into his classes lately, and I'll have the same students come into my class and they'll be like, oh man, Scott did this really cool thing with this blanket and this strap, and I'm sore in places I didn't know I could be sore, and it makes me want to take his classes too.
Yeah, Scott was showing me the movement with the blanket to prepare for the pull in for chaturanga. That was tough. Really good.
Yeah. I was his guinea pig in our kitchen for that, and I could barely do it.
Do you want to explain? Would you be open to explain that a little bit for the listeners?
So basically you're going to take a blanket and come to a high plank with your hands on the blanket. All right. And then you're going to slide the blanket in front of you, so you're extending your arms. And then when you come about halfway, or when you slide the blanket about 2 feet or so, drop to your knees, but keep pushing the blanket out all the way down to your stomachs. And then once you get to your stomachs, you're going to engage your core, and then you're going to use your lats to pull the blanket back towards you, back to a tabletop, hips over knees, shoulders over wrists.
The hardest part is getting yourself to tabletop.
Yeah.
I was
coming back
because I was just doing Cobra, or Seal. It was more like a Seal kind of thing, and I just could not lift my hip.
Yeah,
I think
it was very humbling.
It is. I was like, oh, I can do that, and then I tried it, and I was like, holy crap, this is so hard.
Yeah,
because we don't work that underside of our lats.
And then we offer all these power classes, but we also offer yin offerings.
I saw that on your schedule.
So we also really believe in balance in our lives, balancing in our practice. So if we always practice power vinyasa yoga, we're getting into our muscles of our body, but we're never really getting into our tissues of our body. And so that's why we want to offer yin. And I just got done with the yin training over in Seattle. Thank you. And it was real. I really, really enjoyed the practice.
Where did you do your training?
Did the training at Bala Yoga in Kirkland. And
I've been there. I just went there.
Yes.
I had a great yin class at their location in, in the Seattle area.
Yeah, they have one in Seattle too. Yeah, but Pam Chang was my first yoga teacher at a studio, and I went to a yin class with her, and it was just awesome. And that was my first experience at a yoga studio, and I'll never forget it. And I went to her trainings as a yin teacher and a yoga studio owner, so it all kind of came back full circle for me. But anyway, yin is a practice where you can really surrender yourself and accept who you are and where your body is in certain poses, and it gives people an opportunity to say, okay, I've done all this power vinyasa yoga, I just need some time to really have a slow meditative practice, to hold the poses for a little bit longer and to get into our tissues of our body. And Taylor, one of our other teachers, and Laura are trained in yin.
Okay.
And so we offer that to our students, and it's been really, really helpful for them. I think especially for everyone who practices power vinyasa all the time here, offering that yin gives them a chance to just slow down and just be in the space.
Cool.
And so,
Nice.
we offer that too.
For our listeners, could you explain the difference between a yin and a vinyasa class? Because I think vinyasa is kind of what a lot of people are familiar with. So What are some key differences between those two?
Yeah, I think the power vinyasa means flow with breath. And so we're really working the muscles of our body during that class. And so we're getting stronger in our shoulders and our triceps and all those things. And that's great. It's great for your body to stress your muscles so they come back stronger. So that's a power vinyasa class. It's more of a faster paced movement with breath oriented experience. But if you're looking more for a slower meditative practice, then yin might be your practice for you. And you come into the room and it's a little bit darker, and you hold about 5 or 6 poses in an hour. So yeah, so you hold the poses for about 3 to 5 minutes each. And what the holding of the poses gives you an opportunity to get into the tissues of your body. So you're relaxing your muscles. So you're getting into the tendons, the ligaments, the fascia. Why is that important? Well, there's going to come a time where you walk down the stairs and you take a bad step and you get into those areas of your tendons. And if your tendons are strong, they'll be able to withstand those little falls. And I think a lot of people don't take that opportunity to stress your tendons so they come back stronger.
Yeah.
And as we age, the natural hydration of our body lessens. And so what yin does, it provides an opportunity to provide that acupressure into those areas of our bodies that we're stressing and provide that hydration and that energy to that space. And when you come out of a yin class, you should feel like you just got out of a massage. It's really very similar. And you're really doing good to your body. You're balancing out your body physically, but you're also balancing your mind in this very yang society we live in. Being in a state of yin just gives you a balance in your life. So that's why I would practice that.
What a beautiful description of yin. Like, it makes me want to go to a class right now.
Yeah.
Doesn't it? Yeah.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Thank you for explaining yin for the listeners, because I think it's kind of the second time it's been brought up on the podcast, and the first time we didn't really have an opportunity to talk about what yin is. So I hope that you listeners out there kind of get some better perspective about what the yin class is. With the Baptiste Yoga, is there any kind of pranayama specific breathing that you do within that sequence?
Yeah. So Ujjayi breath is one of the major pillars of Baptiste Yoga. And Ujjayi, for people who don't know what that is, it's an in through the nose, out through the nose breath. But as the breath comes in and out, you constrict the epiglottis muscle at the back of your neck. And it almost makes like an ocean sound, or if you were to be wearing like a scuba mask, or some people say Darth Vader breathing, right? So it's like a tight breath, and hopefully the mic picked that up. But Ujjayi breathing has been proven to lower cortisol in your brain, and that's that stress hormone that gets released when you have anxiety. And so by keeping the Ujjayi breath through your practice, whether it's Baptiste or not, it reduces that fight or flight mechanism in your brain.
Oh, right on.
Yeah.
That makes sense why it's so important to keep that breath throughout the whole practice.
Yeah, so if you hear teachers just cue, with breath or using your Ujjayi breath, right? It's a reminder to continue that breathing, because as soon as we open our mouth and start really inhaling through your mouth, that's when that panic mechanism comes in. But yeah, Ujjayi breath is, you can use it in traffic. You can use it if you're getting ready to have a particularly difficult conversation. It's one of those things that, of course, transitions not only on your mat, but off of your mat as well.
Yeah, I notice I use it a lot when I go on like hikes.
Yeah.
Or when I'm just doing kind of more, I need to have a sustained endurance. So I need to increase my endurance. I notice that Ujjayi breathing kind of gets me into a meditative state like right away.
Yeah.
So it's really powerful, that kind of breath.
Yeah.
Just wondering if we're missing anything, or I think we because we're coming up on the 12:30 mark, and
Yeah.
I think, is there anything else that you two would like to talk about?
Yeah, the only other thing is, if you're listening to this podcast and you want to learn more about Baptiste Yoga, or you want to learn about the practice, we are offering our Intro to Baptiste Yoga workshop series every Sunday in March from 12 to 2 p.m. And each Sunday we'll focus on a different set of postures, and you can read more and sign up if you would like to participate on our website.
Cool. Do you have to do one and all, or can you just choose?
You can hop in and out, do any weekend you want. You can do all of them for a little bit of reduced pricing, or if there's just one that you want to do, you can do just one.
Okay,
Yeah.
right on. Thanks.
And I think we forgot to talk about the heat, because I think a lot of people think.
I
Yes.
was going to ask, like, what's the heat?
Yeah, the heat. What's the deal with the heat?
I wrote it down, but I forgot to ask.
Yeah.
So in our studio, we have infrared radiant heating, and I don't know if there's another studio in Spokane that has
We
that.
are the only studio in
Maybe,
Spokane, I think.
yeah, maybe there. I mean, your listeners will probably tell you, but
probably.
so we have that. We have panels on the ceiling, and what infrared heating does is that it heats the objects in the room only, instead of just blasting out heat everywhere in the room. And it's really healing. And a lot of people have heat sensitivities, have come into our space, practice with our heat, and they just come out just totally, they've accepted it and they love it.
Right.
They love our heat. And it's really hard to explain. It's just, the heat offers us an opportunity to get more out of some poses. It gives us an opportunity to, we're gonna sweat, but we're not gonna have puddles of sweat on the ground. And it's a sweat that hopefully that you are making internally with your tapas, or your heat that you're building inside of you. And so our infrared radiant heating is a supplement to that. But just know that it's really healing, and it just feels good.
Yeah.
I mean that really what it is.
Yeah, and I think it's important to note that what we offer here is not hot yoga. We are not a quote unquote hot yoga studio. Our rooms are we don't have more than one, but our room is heated to anywhere between 85 and 92 degrees, depending on what class you're in. Well, I guess 80 to 92 degrees, depending on the class that you're in.
Okay.
And I think just from what I've experienced and what I've read, the traditional hot yoga is much warmer than that.
It feels like to me in here, kind of like we're sitting on a beach, but we're all in the shade. It just feels really comfortable. Like I could sit in here all day.
Yeah.
So for those of you out there who need to get warm, please come to Eclipse Yoga and just warm up, because I know it's cold and we need to take care of ourselves these last few weeks of winter.
Yes.
Totally.
Yeah. Well, if there is one place in town that people should visit, Spokane, where would you two suggest they go?
We were talking about this last night.
Okay.
I think one of the places, actually two of them, would be the Bull and Pitcher, Riverside State Park.
Totally, yeah.
And the other one would be Mount Spokane. And I think Mount Spokane kind of gets ignored in the summer because so many people think of it as a ski area, which it is. But in the summertime, there's lots of hiking, wild berry picking, wildlife, mountain bike trails, all of it.
Yeah, it's a state park too.
Yeah.
So there's so many. It's like for us, for the community members. It's beautiful up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we just want to thank you for all that you're doing for this podcast and this yoga community, because this is something where it's been needed.
Oh, yeah.
Listeners need to know kind of not only what opportunities there are in Spokane for yoga, but just what the owners, what their missions are, why they open a studio. And I think that's great, because I think students need to know where their owners are trained, why the owners opened up a studio, all those things, because you're investing your time and money into a space, and we just want all of our students to know that you're investing your time and money, and we're giving it back somehow.
Yeah.
And there's no doubt about that. And we just want to be known as a studio of giving. And thank you for letting us be a part of your podcast.
Yeah.
We
Thank
really
you.
appreciate it.
This
You
has
did a
been
great
such
job.
a lovely conversation.
Yeah.
I really have quite enjoyed it. I was just wondering, why did you two open up Eclipse?
Isn't that the ultimate question?
Yeah, like why? I was wondering because you want to give back to the community, so this is a way. But like, what was that initial? Have you always had this on your like radar? Or
no. And what's funny is the moment Scott came through the gate when he came back from level 1.
Okay.
I kind of jokingly had said, "Well, are you ready to open up that yoga studio?" And he looked at me dead serious and he said, "Yeah, let's do it." And 2 weeks later, we had started looking for space. It's, I think, been a dream of yours to be a business owner your whole life.
Yeah, and I think Spokane, in my opinion, in my view, was lacking that just right studio.
Yeah.
And that studio where it's just, it feels right. It's just not too this, it's not too that. It's everything is right in the middle.
Yeah.
Like the heat is right, just the music is right, and it's just a place for someone to come no matter where you are in your practice or your life or what age or how many years of experience you have with yoga. Coming here, you will find acceptance and just be in a warm, welcoming environment. So that's kind of why we decided to offer a studio, because we thought Spokane needed that just right mentality. And we think we have that secret sauce. And that secret sauce is our instructors and the community, the community around us. And we're just so thankful that we've been accepted in this area. And we're so thankful for the students that have come to our studio, because it's been amazing to meet all of these new students that we would have never met. So.
And I know for me, I mean, this Baptiste Yoga changed my life. And I think that by providing 4 walls where people in this community can experience that transformation it's something that it's a gift that you just want to give everyone to be able to experience that. And so I knew when we were talking about opening a studio that we had to have Baptiste Yoga here, that it had to be part of it.
Yeah, I know. I can relate to what you're saying, because what sounds to me, correct me if I'm wrong, but you just wanted to almost create like what you needed.
Yes,
totally.
Like your own 100%. Yes. Yeah.
Where did you do your training, Scott?
In Sedona as well.
Oh, you did in Sedona too?
I did in Sedona.
Who were
as
your
well.
teachers there?
Or
do they vary?
Yeah, so when I did my level 1, I trained with Baron himself.
Oh, wow. So you're one down from Baron.
Yeah. And then when I took my level 2 training, I trained with Paige Ellenson, who is literally like one down from Baron.
And Paige is the lady that's doing the African
Yoga
Project.
She's
Project.
the founder of Africa Yoga Project, and she is really inspirational for me because her way of teaching teachers is, how do you project yourself as a teacher without being too much, too loud, too this, too that? And and it's a tuning that all of us yoga teachers are working on constantly, is, how to project your voice, how to step up and be a leader in your community, all of those type of things. She models for us, not only models, but she gives us her leadership, she gives us her experiences, but we, through level 1, are authentic in our nature, and then learning her teaching style and the way that she projects into a room, combining that together, you will become a teacher that people will want to come to. And just come to and just learn from and soak in all the information. And then it's our job to say, look, if you are thinking about going to a teacher training, go to level 1 Baptiste.
This is the one.
And then that's how it builds community, is that our teaching style and the way we teach provides inspiration for others to do the same thing.
Yeah.
And that's kind of really what we want to do.
The amount of students that we have had come through our doors that said, I saw on your website Baptiste Yoga, and I knew that's where I wanted to go, that just blows me away, because that's it. Like, yes, come practice Baptiste Yoga with us. So, yeah.
Let's get on fire together,
Yeah,
empowered together,
100%. Yes.
Totally.
elevate each other,
Totally.
move through that hard stuff together.
Yeah.
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 That's what it's about.
Cool. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Erin and Scott, I can't tell you enough how much I enjoyed getting to know both of you and how welcomed you made me feel. I'm looking forward to taking more classes from both of you and learning about Baptiste Yoga through your studio. If you would like to learn more about Baptiste Yoga, the Eclipse Power Yoga Studio is offering an Intro to Baptiste Yoga workshop series every Sunday in March from noon until 2. Also, for those yin lovers out there, their studio is also hosting Deep with Yin workshop series. It's every Saturday in March through April. It's from 12 to 2. Visit their website to learn more about each workshop. And thank you to you, the listener. I really hope that you enjoyed this special edition episode. I'm thankful for your support and love that you have shown the podcast. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the podcast, leave a review, and share the episode with your loved ones. Now, if there is someone from your yoga community that you would like to hear on the podcast as a guest, please send me their contact info. Also, if you have any yoga-related questions like I do, please send your questions my way, and I will do my best to get them answered. This podcast is just as much mine as it is yours. Stay tuned for episode 8, where I talk with Emily Stone, the yogi behind Yoga And. Emily breaks down how she sequences a yoga class and how she utilizes visualization within the classroom. Until next time, let's chat on social media, follow the podcast on Instagram at Yogakane, or follow us on Facebook at Yogakane Podcast. Namaste and Shanti peace to you and your household.